32 years ago, Filipinos gathered at EDSA to demonstrate the power of active nonviolence in unseating former President Ferdinand Marcos. It was a historic event that helped bring back democracy in the country and gave Filipinos a sense of pride. Today, we once again remember the people power phenomenon. In celebrating this event, some people are raising concerns about its relevance in this day and age. Now joining us, political analyst Dindo Manhit. Good evening, Dindo.
Good evening, ma'am.
Okay, we celebrate the 32nd anniversary of the People Power Revolution today. Does it still make sense for us to celebrate it in this day and age?
Just like any important historical event of a nation, I think we should continue to celebrate it. But more than to celebrate, is really to reach back and understand what was EDSA Revolution all about. It was a transition of our nation from a dictatorship that really took away basic civil liberties, basic constitutional rights of our country, to one that we all enjoy today, which is the democracy. A democracy that might not be perfect, but it's a democracy that gave us all this freedom to do whatever we want, to speak, to talk, to discuss, to write. These are things that was not present for quite a number of years in our country.
So we must hold government officials accountable for their abuses and excesses, and one of the key lessons of the People Power Revolution. Are we forgetting this lesson today?
That is very key. That's something that I think we have forgotten. That when people look at EDSA and simplify it as the downfall of Marcos and the rise of Cory Aquino, forgot why it's called people power. It's the Filipino people standing up and making, at that time, their leader accountable. In this case, a dictator named Mr. Marcos or President Marcos. That we should continue to make accountable all leaders in our country, post-EDSA, from Cory Aquino to today, President Duterte. And key to that, I remember in any study of why governance failed in our country, is we lack that culture after election to demand accountability. In Filipino, we call it pananagutan, such a strong word that we should demand from government officials at the lowest level, at the highest level, which is the presidency. Because imagine if there's a culture of demanding accountability among our leaders, imagine the type of nation we have today and the type of governance we will all experience in our country.
But some people also say we tend to be forgetful of
Yes.
the sins of the past.
We tend to look at our problems today, so we blame the challenges of our life today on the current administration without trying to understand and learn that some of what we see today as a problem could have been an offshoot because we allowed the past to let it as simple as a past without really making people accountable, demanding that it should never happen again in terms of poor governance, abuse of power, misuse of government resources. All those things, we seem to have failed to make people clearly accountable for it.
So how can we best pursue accountability of government officials? Do you see this today? Because those people who were a tyrant in the past, they're still in power today.
I see it every election, actually. Because if you've noticed our election, we tend to reject certain political groupings. Noynoy Aquino was elected because we basically rejected whoever the candidate of the previous government was. President Duterte got elected with a 40% vote because we rejected the candidate of the administration, no matter how popular Aquino was. So it's our way of making the government accountable. Our only problem is the moment they go into office, we elect them. I always say we tend to go home and keep quiet about it. But accountability is a day-to-day part of the tenure of these public officials. We have to make them accountable, not only their mistakes, but also the promises that they made about standing up for our territorial integrity, about ensuring the delivery of responsive public services, about fighting for the interests of the Filipino people, all those things. Because they promised that to us during election. But normally, we tend to be maybe not forgetful, but we tend to give the benefit to whoever is sitting, and we just feel frustrated towards the end of his term of office. But that's something that we have to learn, that every day we have to demand from government officials the accountability that they committed when they got sworn into office.
Okay, President Duterte is absent in the commemoration of EDSA for the second year in a row. what message does this send? Or kailangan bang bigyan ng kahulugan ang kanyang absence?
I try not to. But of course, the President will always say that he was not part of EDSA. But also, the President should remember that he would not have been mayor of Davao if EDSA also did not happen. He was appointed as part of the officer in charge in Davao that led him to where his political career actually started after EDSA. He must, because a lot of people don't realize EDSA is not what happened in EDSA, the street, or in Camp Aguinaldo. EDSA is a national change or political change that we saw all over the country when we shifted from a Marcos dictatorship to a Cory Aquino presidency. And it cannot be simplified as those who are in EDSA only. Because if it's simply those people, then how come the Cory Aquino government became the legitimate government of the country? How come they were accepted by the rest of the republic?
Some critics say there are growing threats to our democracy that may trigger another people power revolution. Do you share this view, and what are these threats?
I believe there will always be a threat to any democratic ideals of any nation. But do I see it happening? Right now, no, not enough data or evidences. There will be people who would like to go against our democratic way of life, which is a tenure of office. After the tenure, you step down or you face another election, or changing of the rules to favor some over the other. I think we have to remain vigilant. Democracy might not be as perfect as people would want it to be, but the question is, what's your alternative? Is it an alternative to give up the basic rights that you enjoy today? That's why you can complain. That's why you can do things that you can do without government interfering. People tend to have this mystique of life before EDSA. But life before EDSA is something that young people today or generation today could not experience because there's no social media. That will be curtailed. The control of simply to stand on certain things, that could be controlled. So people should realize democracy, no matter how perfect it is, it's about making sure our democracy works, making our leaders accountable, improving the systems of governance, improving our own political parties, maybe addressing dynasties also. So these are all challenges of any democratic society. But we cannot keep on blaming EDSA for it. Post-EDSA, it was all about us. What did we do about it as a citizen? We did not do anything. We allowed leaders to evolve itself or to transform itself. So let's stop blaming what happened in 1986 to our problems today. It's up for us to improve what we have because we were given the right to do it in a democratic way and have democratic option every 3 and 6 years when we elect our leaders.
Dindo, thank you for coming to the studio.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for your time. That was political analyst Dindo Manhit.